Dani, et dec molts cafès. Perdoneu la confusió, ha sigut l'emoció de la jornada i el moment. Tal com us comentava abans, començarem la jornada d'avui amb un dels protagonistes de l'espai europeu. Des de l'any 1975, l'espai, com ho comentava abans, l'espai europeu ha estat liderat per l'Agència Espacial Europea i una de les seves missions referents ha estat la missió Copernicus. En la missió Copernicus es va crear una plataforma, l'Agència Espacial juntament amb la Comissió Europea, i han estat pioners de la creació de DIAS, que és una plataforma cloud que proporciona un accés centralitzat a totes les dades generades pels satèl·lits Copernicus, creant un entorn on els usuaris poden descobrir, manipular, processar, descarregar les dades i crear noves aplicacions. Així doncs, era el primer pas per la democratització de l'espai, el lema en el qual es basa el NewSpace i la jornada d'avui. Així doncs, hi ha poques persones amb tanta perspectiva com Guido Levrini, director del programa Copernicus, que avui ens presentarà la seva visió i previsió sobre l'evolució de la tecnologia i les aplicacions de l'observació de la Terra. Guido, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning to everyone. I realized that Monica was running out of wizards to foresee the future, so she ended up picking me. Thank you for this opportunity. The title in the program concerning my job is half true, in the sense that I spent the last 18 years of my career in Copernicus and the last 12 in the function mentioned there. But since a few weeks, I've got another assignment, actually since the beginning of the year, a program, national Italian program called IRIDE. I will mention something about it. In this talk, you will hear a lot about Copernicus, and not just because I still belong to the group of people that think that it's better you talk about something you know something about, rather than talking about something where you definitely don't know anything about, which is a statement that in an era dominated by social media, it just reveals my true age. It's for a more profound reason. It's because with Copernicus and with the combined effort on all the Earth observation mission, and this is a snapshot as seen from the European Space Agency, is not the full European perspective either, you can guess better what is coming next. What is leadership? What is a leader? A leader is someone that is leading the others. So probably the path that the leadership program will take is a good indication of what the whole group, the direction in which the whole group will probably go. In this slide, I would like to emphasize one point, which is not make a history of the program or present this chronology, all of the contrary. By the way, the program, even at ESA, started earlier than when it is indicated there. The first decision was taken in 2004, and I take this opportunity to salute José Ashash, at the time director of the Earth observation programs at ESA, and among many other things, the inventor of the name Sentinels, for those who didn't know. And of course, we'll continue after 2020 or 2022. The real objective of this slide is to emphasize the following concept. Copernicus started with a very strong and very clear vision. It has the vision to move space from the research domain to the societal domain, to the application domain, to serve political priorities, so not to be self-referenced, to put the users in the loop, and not only the scientific users, but the institutional, operational user, to foster the digitalization of society, to foster economy, to create new skilled jobs, etc., etc. You know the whole story. So this vision was so clear and so strong and so actual at the date. And despite that, the implementation of the program has been a continuous struggle, a continuous stop and go, a continuous hesitation among many different players who had to contribute, and he contributed to his implementation. So this is how life in reality, and how a strong vision, a little revolution if you want, materializes, not as a consequent, coherent implementation. Just to emphasize what you have indicated, there are only the major funding decision over this span of time. There is no single object, no single service, no single satellite which has been funded by one legal act and one decision. It has been a constant stop and go. A good part of my last years have been spent in writing memos to my hierarchy why it was not a good idea to stop the program just because the next decision was still ahead of us in the future. Despite all of that, the program is today a flagship and is envied by our American friends and colleagues. It seems a masterpiece of how you should run a program across various organizations. And one of the actors which is not mentioned often enough, after the European Union, the European Commission, the European Space Agency, other organizations, are the member states. Actually, the individual member states at any difficult turning point have played a key role in making sure that the program would go ahead and that the program could keep his own, let's say, original ambition. It's always good to think about, let's say, what does not work, but it's even better to first understand what works. So why Copernicus has been such a success? There is a lot of talk about what was good from the political point of view. So the data policy, for example, the commitment to long-term data continuity. But there are other elements which have been equally important, which are more on the technical side. For example, the concept of operation, what in ESA we call the high-level operation plan. Of course, the quality of the data, of course, the availability of the data. The fact that despite even myself, I'm showing pictures of satellite to putting the emphasis on the space segment, Copernicus is not just a constellation of satellites, it is an end-to-end system, including the services in the fabric of the program. And it has been conceived and run essentially to serve these needs and this objective. What has not worked, and you will be amazed, is that today Copernicus is, legally speaking, from the juridical point of view, not a program. It's a patchwork of different programs. There is not a single governing body, but each legal decision is taken by the legal body who provides the funding, despite, again, the fact that it serves the political priority of the European Union. My message here is that in any good recipe, in any winning recipe, it's a mistake to think that one of the ingredients is the one that makes the plate palatable. It's the mixture and the ensemble of all of them. Each of these elements has played a key role. You know that in the recent history, we ended up making a miracle, going from a program which was extremely ambitious and which already gave Europe the world leadership, again, considered also together with all the other efforts in Earth observation, to double the size of the family of mission with the addition of what we call the Sentinels expansions now. I would like to emphasize that this is an extraordinary effort, and an effort that, let's say, is not yet completely digested by Europe. We still have to work hard to make sure that this vision will continue and will be sustainable in the future. To give you again, to emphasize the fact that even a program which is associated and pushed by such a clear vision has its own trouble, there's been at least 3 points in time where the survival, when the real nature, the very nature of the program has been put into question. In 2006, in 2013-14, at the time of the first EC funding devoted to this program, taken from the multi-annual financial framework, and more recently, at the time of the second, let's say, multi-annual financial framework funding. 3 times we managed to avoid the worst, and again, with the support of a number of clear sponsors, among which I want to again mention the member states. And I've been asked to say that, I don't go through what are these missions and what do they do, but I've been asked to remind everyone that this sensor cover almost all frequency and the remote sensing technique. And then when an instrument is called radar altimeter, it means it is a radar, as the title says. The next slide is the slide that I think I would have never presented, because it is factually true and leads you in the wrong direction. It is factually true that the Sentinels are the heart of the Copernicus system, but there are a number of other missions which are not being designed especially for Copernicus, which have their own mission objective, but that can and do contribute to Copernicus. What is wrong about this slide is not what it shows, but what it leads you to think. And it leads you to think that this is the complement to the Sentinel. Well, this is a contribution, but it's not complementing the Sentinel. In fact, what are today the limitations of the system? I will not go on, I will not repeat, I will not go back to the governance issue, to the political dimension, to the lack of this, let's say, agreed, negotiated long-term plan, budget, a single decision body, and so forth. I would like to emphasize 2 points. First of all, on the services. I just said one of the strong points is that Copernicus is a system where the users are active part of the system, in particular, especially the operational users. But as much as this has been a success, and we have a lot of operational organization daily counting on the Copernicus data and information derived from them for their job, it is true that when you go to the regional, local level, the penetration of the Copernicus adoption of the Earth observation data is much more limited. And the question is a question of attitude. We should not just stop providing nice maps, nice general, let's say, high-level information, but something which is tailored even in the format in the way it is presented, in the timeliness, etc., to the actual processes which are adopted, which are running in the various local administration and so forth. And on the space segment, because what we need is not more satellite of first class, but we need an improvement of two key parameters, and this is a simplification, of course, which are called revisit and resolution. And this cannot be provided by missions which are great missions, but are not designed as the ideal complement to the Sentinel. And this we come to the point which is closer to the place and the theme where we are today. The fact that Copernicus, and I'm focusing back on the space segment, is today being a synonym, like other program, of being built around a few large, expensive, high-performance satellite. And this is marketed as an old paradigm, and it is confronted with the constellation paradigm. We know, you know better than me, what a constellation is a network with distributed resources. And we know where this comes from. There is a dimension which I will not dwell into, but it's very strong behind the idea of constellation and distributed system which do not depend on large hub, which is the military dimension. But we know that distributing resources mean you are more robust, you are resilient even to attack, not just to random failure. The super important point is that, and this is maybe a personal opinion, is that the unit cost not only must be dramatically lowered, but it is a key of the success of this paradigm. The logic value for money, if I increase the cost of the individual satellite, I can get much more, in my opinion, is not valid if you end up crossing a magical threshold. Where is this threshold can be debated, but independent studies have shown that every constellation attempt where the individual satellite, regardless of the, let's say, nature of the constellation or the number of satellites, was above something in the order of $50 million, had failed in the meantime. So it is imperative that the number of satellites is high, then the unit cost is low. And this means, inevitably, applying different paradigms, different build standards, and so forth to the ones that you apply for the large flagship mission. This is not only because this is cool and fashionable, this is what you need to achieve success with this paradigm. Of course, there is always an industrial dimension to any philosophical debate, and it's clear that in a very large project, smaller companies are relegated, are confined to supplier role more than to being the end-to-end master. And this is obvious. And this is, of course, the opposition from other companies to create space for smaller companies has fueled what I called here the confrontational narrative. One is old, the other one is new, one is cool, the other one is not cool. I don't belong to this school. I think, as I'm saying at the moment, that one complements the other. And these are two rhetorical and provocative questions. I'm sure that everybody will answer no to the first question. But my answer to the second question is equally no. Of course, it depends which constellation you're talking about. But if you're talking about a constellation as a system, meaning a system where you want to relate the measurement of one satellite of the constellation to the measurement of the other satellite of the constellation radiometrically, which means that you want to treat it as a system and not just as a large number of satellites taking pictures, then you need a common reference. You need the big external calibrator, and therefore we need both. At least this is my personal view on that. So we need a complementary vision where the two paradigms can and must coexist. This means that they must be managed differently. The worst mistake you can do is to manage new space with the paradigm of all space, and conversely, all space with the paradigm of new space. There are a few examples of this mistake. Here again, on the wave of adding personal comments that don't engage and commit anybody else than myself, I would like to emphasize two points. The first one is there is an opinion and even some guidelines that if there is some upfront public investment, this will ban the path to commercial exploitation of the system, only because there's been co-financing by some public institution. I'm not sure this is helpful in having a robust new space industry and presence in Europe. The second is that we have to understand, and it's a different way to say maybe the same thing, that anchor tenancy is something that is, has a different value and a very important value when you apply it to an organization, an economical operator, who does not have large shoulders like those who have maybe help from a powerful mother company. Again, I'm not promoting one paradigm against another. I'm saying maybe it's time to think about making space to both paradigm and accepting anchor tenancy as a way to get started in a new direction. On my last two slides, I would like to make a digression and talk about my last job since the 1st of January. A little bit of double job keeps you fit. I'm responsible to implement a project which is actually a national project of Italy and which consists and entirely based on a constellation of small satellites, and is yet again not only a constellation, is a complete system with the services and with the aim of having even a commercial exploitation, the ambition to foster new application, artificial intelligence, digitalization, and so on and so forth. It's a national effort. The asset that will be developed will be owned by the state, not by the European Space Agency, who has been asked just to give a hand in its implementation. And the question, which is again a rhetorical question, if we need to reach really the local authorities, the local needs, the local community, what is best? Is best to start from far away, or is better to start from closer to the users? So to wrap up, what comes next? Again, I don't know. There are other efforts which move in a similar direction. For example, the Spanish PERT, the Earth observation component at the moment is a very small one, but the program is a very nice program, possibly implemented together with Portugal. There are many private initiatives around in Europe that I don't need to mention. Are there other initiatives coming up in maybe other member states of Europe? Remind yourself of the importance of the member states' individual contribution, even to such a European flagship program like Copernicus. If you go back to some of the points that we raised, we said that constellation requires large funding, even when you keep the individual satellite cost and the operation cost under control. It's a fact that the venture capital in Europe is not as abundant as it is elsewhere, and we have to face this situation. It is also, we said that the constellation paradigm is probably the one best suited to serve regional needs because of revisit, because of the resolution associated to that, and probably it is the one best suited to commercial exploitation. So I leave you with the question that maybe we should reflect if the federation of these separated initiative, which do not happen at the beginning to belong to a unified plan, could be a way, a possibility for Europe. I would like to thank, first of all, my friend Monica for having given me the privilege and the honor of addressing you today, and thank all of you for your attention. Thank you.